afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
How
afternoon.
are you? How are you? I hope you all doing well. You are all doing well. Welcome to Wednesday Forum. Today at November 3rd of 2021. For your information, this Wednesday Forum is an interactive weekly discussion forum hosted by CRCS UGM, Center for Religious and Cross-Cultural Studies, as well ICRS, the Indonesian Consortium for Religious Studies, also conducted in Graduate School of Universitas Gadjah Mada. Today we have our very interesting topic, the writing of Professor Yahya Wijaya with the title Sabbath, Nyepi, and Pandemic, the Relevance of Religious Tradition of Self-Restraint for Living with the New Normal. And we already have our speaker today here, Professor Yahya Wijaya. Oh yeah, congratulations Pak Yahya for your inauguration.
Thank you.
About 2 days ago, I guess.
Yes, last Monday.
Congratulations, Prof.
Thank you.
Professor Yahya Wijaya is a Professor of Public Theology at Duta Wacana Christian University Yogyakarta, Indonesia, and affiliated faculty member of ICRS. Professor Yahya Wijaya holds the THM from Princeton Theological Seminary and a PhD from the University of Leeds. He has authored and co-authored books on public theology and Christian ethics in English and Indonesian, and published in several international as well as Indonesian journals in the areas of theology, business ethics, and philosophy. I first met Pak Yahya at 2002, if I didn't wrong, when Pak Yahya just arrived from the Great Britain, from England, yeah, Pak.
Yeah.
When you just got your PhD, and almost 20 years later,
yes,
I meet today. I meet Pak Yahya today as a professor. Very proud of you, Pak.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Without any further wasting time, we will start our discussion today. Pak Yahya will present his writings for about 45 minutes, and later we have a discussion for another 45 minutes, and
Wow.
everyone invites to respond or to ask question by two ways. You can put a icon of raising hand, or you can chat your question on the chat room. Okay, everyone, we will let Pak Yahya Wijaya to present his topics. Please, Pak Yahya.
Thank you. 45 minutes is too long for a Zoom meeting.
More
Okay,
or less, Pak.
it's okay. Can I share screen? Okay. Okay, can you see my screen? So the title of my presentation is Sabbath, Nyepi, and Pandemic, the relevance of religious tradition of self-restraint for living with the new normal. Now, the first question is what kind of life that the pandemic is disrupting? Our civilization is marked with a super busy life called productivism, which is characterized by uninterrupted progress in all areas. So we want everything is progressing. Jogja is progressing lots in terms of business, industry, tourism, education, so, and also fierce competition. I think we also in the academia are put in that situation to compete with each other. An ever-increasing income. We want to we want to be richer and richer every day. Even when one is not working, now the idea of passive income is very popular. So the best life is if you have a passive income. So let your money works for you. Then the availability of ever-innovating products and services, including Zoom, that didn't exist 5 years ago, I think. I just recognized the existence of this video conference facility just after the pandemic. But before the pandemic, I didn't think how important it is to have a video conference facility. And creativity, productivity, progressivism, and hardworking are considered cardinal virtues in this kind of productivism culture. The best thing is the best people are those who embrace this kind of virtues. Creative, productive, progressive, hardworking people. The one who is easier to get job is the one who embraces these virtues. And such a lifestyle needs to be supported by never ceasing facilities, cities and towns that never sleep, infrastructures that always need to be expanded. And that's why our government is now very aggressive in developing infrastructure. Even Jogja, in the near future, we have Jalan Tol. We already have new airports in Kulon Progo. I never been there because during the pandemic I was I'm at home all the time, and that is needed. Yeah, infrastructure that always need to be expanded, to be developed, is required to support productivism. So that is the concept of life that is based on a non-stop global current of monies, ideas, commodities, and humans. Practically, that means a running circle of investment, production, marketing, profit, and investment again. So investment, production, marketing, profit, investment, production, marketing, profit, and so this circle is never stops. If you have money because you invest, then you have production, then you market your production, you got profit, and what for? Your profit, you invest the profit. and the new circle start. The 20th century economic life is the progressive and productivity lifestyle has resulted in easiness and convenience in many aspects. Communication, so we don't have to gather in Bulan Sumur to have this meeting at the Stephen Forum. It's easier just sit in our house or in our office. I'm in Duta Wacana right now, and we can participate in Wednesday Forum conducted by ACRS and CRCS. It's very convenient for us. Transportation also, accommodation, leisure, consumption, socializing, worship, also online worship. You don't have to go to church with the parking problem, because we just sit at home and we can just choose which church we want to attend. So that's one of the results of our progressive and productive lifestyle, productivism, thanks to affordable and sophisticated technology. Then the betterment of life quality resulted from economic growth and the formation of new middle class. Then increasing life expectancy in Indonesia, Yogyakarta has, I think, the longest life expectancy. Maybe because we eat lots of gudeg. Then accessibility of education. When I was young, I had to wait until I was 29 to go to the university to start the undergraduate program, because education was very expensive and very rare. Because I grew up in a village where the education available there was only until SMP. So even SMA didn't exist there. So if you want to go to SMA at the time, you need to move to a bigger city. But now almost everyone can go to the university. Yeah. So I started my undergraduate program at 29. But my daughter has PhD in 29. Okay, that's productivism. Now, anti-productivism. Many have criticized the current economic life, and there is a call for alternatives. The counterculture, known as anti-productivism, emphasizes priority for social and ecological well-being over company profit, over production, and excessive consumption. Then a total stop, not just deceleration, but a total stop of economic growth. Then the vice or the dehumanizing tendency of work ethic, the idea of work ethic. For Protestant, it is very familiar, Protestant work ethic, Max Weber. According to anti-productivism, it's harmful, it's dehumanizing. Then work is to be accepted at best as necessary evil. So if you can, you're not supposed to work. The ideal life is the absence of work. We can live without work. Consequently, work hours to be reduced dramatically. That's the idea of anti-productivism. In Europe, there is a movement called the growth. So it's they are campaigning against work and economic growth. What anti-productivism is correct? First, alerting the harmful effects of productivism on social and ecological lives. The second, calling for preventing the global enthusiasm of productivism from undervaluing the so-called non-productive activities, including household works, charity works, works that are non-productive, that doesn't make money. Highlighting the significance of voluntary works for the economy, including those initiated by religious communities and charitable organizations. That is what anti-productivism help us to do the right thing. Now, the problems with anti-productivism. The first is lack of a concrete, realistic alternative for the system it criticizes. Their fundamental assumption that work contradicts social life overlooks the potentials of work for function otherwise. That is, as a social context, workplace as a social context where people of different background share not only their economic interests, but also broader personal and common concerns. I think this is very realistic for us in Indonesia, for instance. Our workplace is not just a place for making money, but also to making friends. In the university also, even on holidays, people still come to the office because office is like home. So works is not only the opposite of social life, but there is also a condition where works overlaps, work and social life overlaps. In fact, the spheres of work, family, and charity often overlap, such as in the case of micro, small, and medium enterprises. If you open a small shop, for instance, in your family, many small shops in Indonesia are just extension of a family house. So there, the spheres of work, family, and charity overlap. And micro, small, and medium enterprises make up more than 90% of the private sector in the global south, and many of them taking the form of family businesses. Okay, home industry, for instance, it's not just work, it's also a family event, it's also a family cooperation, it's also a social activity, because we also include many people in the neighborhood, in the industry. And secondly, anti-productivism leaves an important question unanswered, namely, what are people to do when they do not work? So if work is necessary evil, so the better situation is not working. And what to do if we don't work? Traditionally, less work was related to aristocratic culture that put working people at the lower social rank, whilst those considered noble were the ones who claimed to have privileges in the economy without doing any real work. The priyayi. The priyayi is orang halus because they don't work. They claim many economic resources without any work, the priyayi. And traces of aristocratic culture remain salient in many countries in the global south, where bureaucratic jobs are deemed more valuable than professional, let alone technical ones. So if even in the academia, many docents, for instance, are looking for a bureaucratic position to become dean or rector or all those administrative positions because they are deemed more valuable than becoming just docent. That's part of our aristocratic culture. And the result is high cost and over bureaucratic public services and an unproductive economy that relies too much on imports because we produce very little. Including vaccine. We import so many vaccines because we are not able to produce vaccine ourselves. So that's challenge the claim of anti-productivism. The context of anti-productivism reflects the anxiety of a particular intellectual camp living in affluent societies with zero or minus population growth, facing social problems that are rooted in hyper-industrialization. In fact, anti-productivism accommodates a vision within the context of the wealthiest capitalist nation in the West. So it does not represent poorer societies in the global South, struggling to balance population growth and economic growth. So imagine if we have zero economic growth, whilst our population is always increasing year by year, then who will feed them? Who will feed us? Now, what the COVID-19 pandemic changes? The COVID-19 pandemic unexpectedly broke through the culture of productivism. All of a sudden, many unceasing and ever-increasing things had to be rescheduled, reformatted, delayed, or even cancelled. The earth suddenly became a dangerous, scary place. The economic growth in many countries changed from positive to negative. Indonesia also, we are enjoying steady 5, 6, or 7% economic growth year by year, but suddenly since 2020, our economic growth become negative. Stock exchange indexes turn to rate dominant, meaning the values of many saham are decreasing. Profitable businesses such as tourism, transportation, finance, culinary, restaurants, for instance, entertainment, cinemas, movies, face the hardest situation. Many had to close down, and that happened very sudden, unexpectedly. But the pandemic also confronts anti-productivism because communal and social events become inconducive and had to be avoided, including regular religious worship. Wedding, funeral, birthday, and other celebration had to be made short and simplified. All had to adapt to the new norm, which is home-based and online way. Also courses and Wednesday forum. The pandemic puts both productivism and anti-productivism to the test. The necessary restriction requires significant reduction of economic activities. In such circumstances, giving priority to production and valuing humans according to productivity would put the lives of many workers in danger, as well as victimize their close contacts, particularly if the elderly and those suffering from serious illnesses are amongst them. Such an approach is also unjust for healthcare workers who would have to carry the burdens of overcapacity in hospitals whilst taking the risk of losing their own lives. On the other hand, it would be reckless to take for granted anti-productivism radical denial of work. if the solution to end the pandemic depends on an effective vaccination and responsible healthcare services, which can only be produced through the creative and hard works of scientists and healthcare workers, the negation of work is misleading. So if scientists, doctors, nurses do not work, then I bet the pandemic will be much worse than we have today. So how to comprehend this disruption spiritually? Religions and spirituality traditions have in fact anticipated disruptions of life regularity by training the people to do disruptive practices such as fasting, nyepi atau silencing, and retreat. Unfortunately, those traditions of self-restraint are often practiced inconsistently that lighten their sense of disruption. So we may not recognize that as a disruption of life. It is intended actually to disrupt our life. Now the Jewish tradition of Sabbath. The Sabbath is the fourth of the 10 commandments in the Hebrew Bible or Old Testament for Christian that are crucial for the existence of the nation. On Sabbath, all regular economic activities must stop or disrupted. What does it mean? Despite the importance of the economy, life is deemed more important. Life is more than economic activities. There are two versions of the Sabbath stories in the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible or in the Old Testament. This is in the book of Exodus and the book of Deuteronomy. The Exodus 28 to 11, in the Exodus version, the Sabbath commandment is related to the creation story. We have to observe Sabbath because God rests on Sabbath. This implies that the Sabbath is crucial for natural relations, relation that is formed in the creation. So the natural relation, including social relation, human to human, and humans to other than humans, creatures. Then relation between creatures and creator, or spiritual relation. The Sabbath means the importance of natural relations to be human. The implication is neglecting the Sabbath means putting natural relations at stake. Productivism or progressive and productive life without interruption causes many problems. We know that. Family and marriage relations, friendship and social responsibility, spirituality, even if in religious societies like ours, sometimes religious activities became merely an extension of economic activity with its norms. Then ecology, climate change, deforestation, pollution, there's the consequences of economy without Sabbath. Sabbath in the Deuteronomy text, Deuteronomy 5:12-15. In the Deuteronomic version, the Sabbath is associated with the history of the people enslavement in Egypt. This implies that the Sabbath is crucial for the maintenance of freedom, justice, and equality. In the workplace, hierarchy and differentiation are often inevitable. So there is also atasan and bawahan, boss and just ordinary staff, for instance. Managers director, CEO, and just staff. That's sometimes inevitable. So without Sabbath, we always live in that hierarchy. With Sabbath at least one day in a week, the original equality between humans is assured. Now we look at the Balinese Hindu Nyepi. Nyepi is a 24-hour total lockdown in silence where no one is allowed to do any kind of work except in an emergency. The rule of Nyepi is called Catur Brata, the 4 principles of self-restraint, namely amati geni of fire, amati karya of work, amati lelungan of traveling, and amati lelanguan of pleasure. The rules apply to all people regardless of social rank, occupation, gender, age, family status, economic strength, and political affiliation. And it is important to notice that Nyepi is part of the New Year celebration. So the first day of the year is Nyepi. The Balinese spend the first day of the year by silencing, not doing everything. Nyepi is, according to the Saka calendar, is New Year celebration. That demonstrates a confession that equality and harmony among creatures are the original and authentic nature of life. So it's not just lockdown is not just necessary because for the sake of work, no. But it is part of the essence of being human. As with the Sabbath, the Nyepi is a refusal to value one's worthiness on the grounds of productivity or consumption behavior. For in total silence, everyone is equal regardless of possession, occupation, strength, or fame. In total silence, harmony among creatures is also salient. As part of the New Year celebration, the ritual of the Nyepi is to be carried out only one day annually. But its ethical values are meant to ensoul the full year in social life as well as the work spirit. The shared virtues of Sabbath and Nyepi. The Sabbath and Nyepi tradition imply a balanced position, creating a sense that neither absolution nor negation of work is appropriate. Instead of denying work, such as in antiproductivism, the religious tradition of self-restraint incorporates virtues for the transformation of work and resilience in difficult times. In this way, both of this tradition of self-restraint are at odds with productivism and at the same time do not fit well with anti-productivism. Another problems with Sabbath and Nyepi. In a production-oriented society, the ethics of those religious traditions are often greatly compromised. In the case of the Sabbath, very few communities practice it as a resting day for all. Since a weekly total disconnection from regular activities is deemed high cost or impractical. Christians normally spend the rest day at the end of the week by combining leisure, physical exercises, sepedaan, and participation in religious services. While such activities are intended to be rejuvenating, there are always people who do the operational jobs and thus work, including pastors, preachers, clergies, janitors, they are needed in order the Sunday activities work. So it is not exercise as a total restaurant. It is impossible according to the production-oriented society. As for Nyepi, there is now a great pressure to commodify this tradition for the interest of tourism, given the position of Bali as a popular global tourist destination. So Nyepi is one of the tourism commodity. It is marketable. Now, the pandemic as a spiritual message. In this respect, the pandemic amplifies the ethical concerns of the traditions, I mean the self-restraint tradition, yet gives no opportunity for compromise. The advantage of a pandemic in comparison to religious tradition is that it reaches the whole of humanity, so that its message transcends the boundaries constructed on the grounds of nationality, locality, religious affiliation, political preference, and economic level. Because everyone can catch the virus. You know, even the noble and political leaders, head of governments, rich people catch the virus. The pandemic has a strength of enforcement that no one and no nation can ignore. You can ignore the Sabbath, you can ignore Nyepi, you can ignore other religious tradition of self-restraint, but you can't ignore the pandemic. In a post-religious society where religions are deemed irrelevant, and in a religious society where religions are often politicized, pandemic plays an irresistible role as a medium to deliver a spiritual message. So, as a conclusion, pandemic and religious tradition of self-restraint should be comprehended as a synergistic collaboration between nature and culture, a warning about the vices of productivism, and an appeal for a more just and balanced, yet realistic lifestyle. That's all. The complete paper has been published in Studies in Christian Ethics. It is now available open access, so you can download it directly from the website. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Yahya. It's very interesting that actually some religion already provide religious tradition or rituals that can be the balancing way for human, for nature and culture, as well as they face the pandemic situation. Yes, we can see that the Sabbath and the Nyepi is provided tradition that make their adherents more ready than other adherents. I will let the participants to respond to these topics or raise some question. Please, you can raise your hand with the raising hand icon, or you can type your question on the chat room. Anyone? Mas Ancu?
I can wait, but
Wait for who? Pancho. Anyone want to ask some question or to respond to these topics? Okay, please, Mike Quinn.
I just want to reiterate my congratulations to you, Prof.
Thank you.
When I think of Nyepi, I think of course, the police going around and making sure people are keeping Nyepi. And then, of course, in my country, we have what is known as the blue laws. And so in the past, we had very strict laws on Sunday. You could not work, you could not do certain things. But I just wonder what your advice is for us as religious leaders today. Maybe those of us who preach the Sabbath, how strongly should we encourage our congregations to pursue Sabbath? Should this be something maybe we should put into law or seek at the political level or even at the economic level? How much should we enforce this need of humans for Sabbath?
Well, I think the important thing is not the technical practice of the Sabbath, but the idea of Sabbath, which is the relativization of work. Work is important, but life is more than just work. Productivity is important, but life is more than productivity. There are other aspects of human life that is outside the area of productivity. So I think it may not be possible to practice the Sabbath as the ancient Hebrew people or the old Christian communities in the past, like in Scotland or in the old Netherlands, for instance. It may not be possible right now. But the idea of Sabbath is richer than just resting. So it's against the culture of productivism that enslaving, that makes it in practice is a slavery for many people. The assurance of freedom, equality, justice. I think that's the important thing.
Thank you, Pak. Anyone else want to ask question? Okay, we will let Pak Andi Harlen, please, Pak Andi.
Okay, thank you. And can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Henry. I studied CRCS at 2017 to 2019, and I ever wrote about the topic about Sabbath, especially the Sabbath here. And in my opinion, the most important thing about the Sabbath and the social in the contextualization of Sabbath in our social life is to make it broader than just a ritual.
Yes.
Like maybe when I wrote about Sabbath and ecology, I think that the most important thing is not only to make a Sabbath, to practice the ritual of Sabbath, but to bring back the main concept, the main idea about the social justice, about the ecological justice to the people who practice that ritual. So what do you think about that? Because I think the most important thing is about to bring back the main idea of the ritual to the people.
Yes, of
Thank you.
course. Yes, I think so. I agree with that. Actually, many other traditions, including the 5 times prayer of Islam, I think implies that idea that life should not be exhausted with work and economic activity. So people need to stop from work or for other regularity to pray 5 times a day. I think that's wonderful. That remind us that life is more than just our business as usual. The important thing is not the times of the prayers, but that idea. I think that's the important thing to me. And it's the same as with the Sabbath. The ritual. The ritual is important, but in some circumstances, it won't be possible to practice the ritual as it is. So the ritual can be changed or can be modified, but the main idea of the philosophy should be maintained.
Thank you.
And to me, in the talks about the subject of productivism and antiproductivism, the meaning of Sabbath and Nyepi and fasting and other self-restraint traditions is to give that notion that the vice of productivism should be recognized, and also we need to avoid the other extreme that is promoted by anti-productivism.
Okay, thank you, Pak.
Please, anyone else will respond or ask some question?
Bu Irma.
Hello, Pak Yahya.
Hello,
Congratulations. So happy for you. Pak Yahya, I have a quick question, if I may, Mbak Eli.
Sure, you may.
Yes, please.
It's very interesting, Pak Yahya. I'm in the process now of reviewing a book, a manuscript on religion and pandemic, and I learned a lot from your presentation. This is in Asia, yeah, in Asian religions and traditions. So one of the essay that I was reading or reviewing, I cannot disclose now the name of the person because it's in the process of review for publication. But the person was referring to the pandemic, and even more specifically, the infection that actually goes to the body as the grace of God. So that actually this is signaling God's arrival in the household. And I found it's very interesting, and related this to your presentation about Sabbath and Nyepi. And I was wondering, Pak Yahya, if you think that this is also true, because I missed some part of earlier presentation. I came a bit late today to join your presentation. So I was wondering if you think that this is also true, that in other religious traditions, we can also see this pandemic as this person wrote about, that it is actually reflecting the grace of God in our household. Maybe you can comment to this, Pak Yahya. Thank you.
I'm not brave enough to come to that conclusion, but actually I'm referring to Angkus Ruswana in that book published by ICRS. What is the title? That collection of essays. You are included in that book as a contributor, I think. Manusia, Virus, Tuhan. Okay. So there is a chapter written by Angkus Ruswana, which is the leader of kepercayaan kepada Tuhan Yang Maha Esa. And
Yeah.
yes, and he writes about that pandemic as a spiritual message. So actually, in my article I refer to him. But
Okay.
I'm not brave enough to claim that pandemic is something God's doing to us. I'm not that spiritual to know what our God is doing.
Okay. Okay, Pak Yahya, thank you.
Thank you, Bu Irma or Bu Fatimah. Anyone will ask question or give any response? You can also give response. Mas Ancu,
Hai Mbak Eli.
please, you're very welcome.
Thank you Mbak Eli. Thank you very much Pak Yahya. I want to see the case of Nyepi, Puasa, and others from the theoretical perspective of ritual, if I may, to to see how you present or how you formulate that into pandemic context. If we see from the ritual perspective, I mean ritual as a concept and a theory, ritual, as we learn from other theories, it is a way of implementing, it is a way of manifesting ideas, notions, abstract notions, like what you said before, human nature relationship is implemented through the through rituals. And I think from that, I mean, after implementing, manifesting, realizing notion from ritual, it is also to preserve the notion, transmitting it to the people. And so people could always remember, could always maintain, preserve those notions through rituals. So Sabbath as a practice, I think, is very important because it is the media of for generating those notions, like from very ancient even up to now. And to me, I think thanks to our ancestors who created that, so through rituals we learn our notions. And I mean, if I compare this practice to what I'm working with, like indigenous people, through the rituals that they preserve their notions, their worldviews, their perspectives into practice, even to the everyday life. And so I would say that as a creative, and think we could learn from that. Yeah. Now, in relation to that, Sabbath, in relation to that, I mean, from that ritual as a medium of implementing, realizing to everyday practices, which is the notion of, say, human nature relationship. How could, like, for those who pray or for those who have the Sabbath rituals, who belong to it, and like fast Muslim, how could do, what do you think that they or we could do to make more effective, not only understanding it, not only capturing the notion, but bringing it into practice? And I think this is what the first question raised by Michael, like how to bring the notion into practice for us today.
Yeah.
We fast, Muslim fast, praise, Christian. Also, I think some still practice Sabbath, and also those who practice Nyepi. But I think we are questioning how those rituals, transform to everyday life. So do you have like any ideas of bringing those notions that into practice to make it effective and so become part of our everyday life? Thank you, Paya.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I think the problem with our religious ritual in our age is sometimes it doesn't fit with our economic calendar. I give you an example. In a small town in Central Java, for instance, in the past, there is a church. The church order or call their people to close their shops and their businesses on Sunday. Okay, because there's a Christian tradition that we don't work on Sunday, we rest on Sunday, this Sabbath. Although it's not very consistent because the pastor works on Sundays. The pastor and all church workers work on Sundays, work harder on Sundays. But the ordinary people are asked to stop working on Sunday. But the problem with the people in that town is Sunday is the market day, hari pasaran at the time. So it is not possible to close your business on Sundays. Otherwise, you need to close all the time, because other than Sundays, the situation is not too economical. Only Sundays is the only opportunity to get profit. So how is the strategy to overcome this dilemma? And I think that's the history why churches in small towns in Indonesia have Sunday services at 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't think there is a church in Mike's country that that has an early morning service on every Sundays. Only in Easter, okay, but not on regular Sundays, right? You normally have Sunday services at 10 to 12 midday, right? But in Indonesia, it's very, very common to have 6 o'clock or even 5 o'clock services. There's a history, because in some towns at the time, Sunday were market day. So we need to find a way out. The ritual has to go on, but the economy still have to go on. So that's the compromise. And because that compromise are often inevitable, so the only thing that is we cannot compromise is something like the pandemic, because the pandemic affect everyone. No one is exemption, right? Do I respond correctly or not?
If I may go,
Yes.
for further,
Yes, sure.
Exploration, Mbak Eli, Paya.
Yes,
Please.
sure.
Thank you. Yeah, again, still on rising rituals. If we see like a community, religious community, and see the rites as a way of manifesting their religiosity, their religiousness. A ritual is related to others.
I can't hear you.
For Christians, yeah.
I think your voice is interrupted.
Okay, sorry. How is it now?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay now.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to ask, like, how to bring religious ideas from Christianity, contribute, to the issues, to ecology, Islam and other religions. If we find Sabbath as a ritual, it's very significant how to use. And so in relation to that, I think from theories or theorizing ritual, one ritual community is related to other rituals. They have, because if sociologically speaking, it is created as a mirror of reality. And so one ritual, to make it should be supported to other rituals, and so looking at those rituals of a community, religious community, we could find a holistic worldview which is manifested in everyday life. And so for me, for example, looking at an indigenous community having a ritual in relation to forest, I mean, the way I see it, the way I understand it, understanding from their ways of explaining that, like a ritual in relation to forest is very much closely related to a ritual of life circle.
Yes.
And so the ideas that they have for the ritual of in relation to forest are reproduced in rituals of life circle, like giving birth, marriage, and so on and so forth. Yes. So, I mean, again, based on my work, the way they manifest those ideas, complicated but related ideas, manifested in many different rituals. And so in relation to that, where can we find ideas of Sabbath in other rituals of Christian communities? For us, to collect them, to see them, and so we could utilize them to strengthen the ideas that we have from the Sabbath practice or rituals. Thank you, Pak Yahya.
Thank you. Yeah, I think actually the Sabbath is not originally Christian, but it's more a Jewish tradition. Christian borrowed the many Jewish traditions, but modified it and positively can be called contextualize it into the Christian situation. So even the day is different, because the original Sabbath is on Saturday and Christian make it on Sundays. There's also have a different meaning, I think, because Sunday is the first day of the week, right? It's Ahad in Arab or Ahad in Hebrew, so it's the first day, and the first day is spent by holiday by Christians, but the Jewish mean the Sabbath to be celebrated on the seventh day, and on the last day of the week. So it also have a different meaning or the Christian modify the meaning, I think not many people aware of that now, but I think there should be a study about that. There are quite many parallel traditions in different religious tradition, I think that, but the meaning, it points to more or less the same intention, which is the relativization of economic activities and the equality of human beings, and even equality of God's creatures. Because in the Sabbath commandment, not only humans that have to stop working, it's include also animals. Animals belong to the people, have to stop working also. The calves, the kambing, they are not supposed to work. So I think there is the notion of equality among God's creatures that now we just realized it, part of the theology of ecology. But despite the importance of ritual that you have explained, I think for Protestants, there's a history of paranoia against ritualism. I mean, that ritual can be too occupying people's life, that people do not really understand what we are doing with rituals. We just do it. And we allow rituals to be excessive and to make us not very productive in life. I think that's one of the aspects why Protestantism is less ritual than the Catholics or Orthodox. Even to the extreme point that Protestantism is considered unritual religion. Now we are all aware of that, and we are I think trying to balance the positions that we return some of the rituals, but not all. I think it's still less ritual than the Catholics, I think. But that's, I think, very important that ritual have also have crucial meanings in the life of the people, and we can't live without ritual. But also, on the other hand, we also have the experience of ritualism that is not very positive also for us. So I think the balance of the proper practice of ritual is important. Reaching the balance of that.
Okay, Pak Yahya, thank you. I want to add to Mas Anju question, actually. Relate to Mas Anju question, how to bring this particular tradition of religion of self-restraint and for slow down your lifestyle and to make the balance of human nature and the ecology. How to bring it from a particular religion to a most common concept or idea, or even secular lifestyle, so it can be the common lifestyle. Maybe when the Indonesian government made the Sunday as the officially hari libur, it is a part of of that Sabbath. Please, Pak Yahya.
I don't know. I think because we just follow the most of the countries in the world that rest on Sundays. and also because I think although Islam worship on Fridays, but in Islam, I think there is no notion that worship day is a rest day. I think that's part of the Islamic work ethic, that they worship in the middle of the work day. So it's different from the concept of Sunday as a worship day. So there is, I don't think there is a strong feeling of being neglected from the Islamic side. So that's why Sunday is a rest day, following so-called the global tendency that Sundays is not to replace it on Fridays, even in Islamic countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, for instance, or Islamic societies.
Yes, actually Sunday already also contrasts for the Christian for the Sabbath, but they do all things on Sunday, like some pleasure and so on. Okay, we will move to another participant. We have here Mbak Ladrina. Please, you can ask your question.
Yeah, thank you, Mbak Eli and Pak Yahya. Actually, I want to respond to what Pak Yahya said, that this pandemic, he's not sure that this pandemic comes from God or not. But it is sure. I want to talk from the view of the youth. Yeah. It is sure that it makes some of youth find their self and maybe their God in the middle of this pandemic, and it's regarding to Mas Anju response to how to make this this Sabbath and Nyepi rituals into everyday life. Actually, the youth have mastering this kind of do nothing ritual in the middle of this pandemic, because we hit so hard by this pandemic. 20s and 30s are the age of super productive, and as Pak Yahya said in the beginning of his presentation, that this world actually running to be ambitious, have to productive every day, have to do something every day, have to learn something every day. That's what happening in our life before pandemic, and then suddenly pandemic hits and we have nothing to do, we got nothing to do, we cannot do anything that we do every day. We cannot go to the office, we cannot gather with our friends, we cannot do everything. Like I have a business. Actually, we want to spend. We went to spend the business into another city, and then pandemic hit, and I have to rearrange my business purpose, and then we have to do nothing at all about the business because we don't know what will happen. It happens to my friends. So we hit really hard by this pandemic, and we can do nothing about it. We just tried to live and keep our sanity, actually. So we do something like, if you know, Mbak, maybe the trend of Dalgona coffee, the trend of people talk that it's okay to do nothing in the pandemic. It's okay that you don't learn something new in the pandemic. It's okay if you unproductive in the pandemic, because it's pandemic, and the only thing that you have to do is keep your sanity in all costs. So actually the youth have mastering this Sabbath and Nyepi ritual in daily life, with us do everything that keep our sanity. We have fun with our life. We try together with our friends via Zoom meeting, and we, at the end of the day, we found ourselves. We knew ourselves better, and we found our purpose and in life. And when pandemic is getting better, I see that my friends and I have the better purpose of life and have the better point of view of life. So we think that this pandemic is actually a blessing in the blessing in disguise. Thank you, Pak Yahya, for the time. Bailey, that's my reflection of this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Ladrina. We have another question from Mbak Irsa. Please, Mbak Irsa.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So this is my first time in this Wednesday forum, and I really interested in Professor Yahya's presentation. Maybe I would like to give a response and comment about how I agree that the self-restraint religious practices during the pandemic is really slow our lane a bit. Because before the pandemic hits, I feel like the environment is very fast-paced, and as a young generation, I feel overwhelmed sometimes. And after the pandemic hits, it's kind of blessed that I am able to work from home and I don't have to commute. But then recently, I heard this phrase called ecofascism. Where there are some people that blame the human population for the pandemic, for the virus, that after the pandemic hits, the nature is actually healing. And this kind of perspective states that is about the human populations, that too many people in the world, and the world is trying to cleanse itself by using this pandemic and this virus. But meanwhile, there's millions of people dying around the world. So I would like to know your response and your comment about this ecofascism, because this is something that I don't really understand, but this is something that I did and thought at the beginning of the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Irsa. Please, Pak Yahya.
I don't know either whether the pandemic is a nature way to balas dendam, the vengeance, the human evil habit and whatever. But what I'm trying to learn is that the pandemic has a power which is stronger than religious traditions in alarming people and calling people to live a more balanced life and more just life, in terms of our relations with other creatures and also with other human beings. Yeah, what I need to underline is that actually, if we are consistent with with our religious tradition of self-restraint, I think the interruption of our regular economic life should not surprise us, because those traditions allows us to taste the interruption, yeah, regularly. Yeah, in terms of Nyepi, it's annually, but it's the first day of the year, so it should give an impression to us that life, it should be balanced. Life is not totally about making money. In terms of the Sabbath, it's weekly, for instance. So although we don't practice it consistently with the original form of Sabbath, I think, but that meaning should teach us and should allow us to taste that interruption. So when the real interruption comes because of the pandemic, it should not surprise us too much. But I don't want to speculate whether this pandemic comes from God or from any other being. Yeah, that's quite outside my my idea.
Understanding.
Mindset. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Pak Yahya. We have some other question from the YouTube live chat. I will read it to for Pak Yahya. Earlier, Professor Yahya said that now Nyepi is being commodified. Then, what if the self-restraint tradition is being commodified as well? This also happened in the case of pandemic we are facing today. In fact, even pandemics, which are said to have crossed various aspects of our lives, affect everyone, eventually become commodification. What I want to ask, what is the limit of the self-restraint tradition? At what point did the activities of the self-restraint as critical productivism traditional eventually fall into commodification? And how religions face this challenge? That's the question, Pak Yahya.
Yeah, I am not mentioning any specific form of commodification of a religious tradition, but the concept of commodification of Nyepi has already discussed among the Balinese scholars themselves. So I also quoted, I cited from a journal, from a Hindu journal about that. So obviously the concrete form, I think that's, you know, it's a unique tradition. So I think it's quite interesting to sell it to tourists. But if it becomes like, you know, like the other Balinese dance. So originally some dances in Bali were sacred dances, but now it becomes a commodity. So when it becomes a commodity, I think all the motivation of doing that, for instance, and the meaning, that the perspective embedded into that tradition have changed. I think it become a tools of making money, for instance. The same case with the Christian Sunday service. So many churches are now actually business. It's very profitable business, and they don't pay tax.
So what is, according to that question, so what is the limit of the tradition of self-restraint with accommodate.
I think if the motivation and the meaning that grasped by the people have changed, I think that's a limit. I mean, if we come to the church on Sunday with a different understanding and motivation than to worship God or to do the fellowship with the other believers, then I think so. That's event have a different meaning now.
And in your perspective, can this tradition of self-restraint be our lifestyle?
Yeah, I think in practice it's been compromised, and sometimes it's inevitable because the situation. I mean, for instance, Sabbath is a total rest for everyone, but in a pluralist society, it can't be carried out.
Continuing the question, so how the religious face this problem? When their tradition become not pure anymore?
Yeah, my intention is not to purify the traditions, but I just want to say that the pandemics has a stronger power than those traditions. Those traditions are important. They have a function. There is a function, an important function for us people to live a balance in a balanced life. But in fact, our situation makes those traditions sometimes need to be compromised. And so comes the pandemic that is stronger than the tradition, because no one can resist the pandemic. Even the countries that attempting to apply a kind of vaccine nationalism, so it won't be effective because no one is safe until everyone is safe, right?
Okay, Pak. Thank you.
Yeah.
We can have one last question if anyone would ask something. Anyone to add something or ask question for the last time? Because we have already at the end of our discussion. Okay, maybe Pak Yahya want to give some last sentence or highlight or conclusion.
Yes, thank you so much for all the responses. It's also very helpful and teach me lots. Thank you very much. That's all. If you want to have my paper, you can download it directly from the journal. It's open access. So I don't know why they make it open access. I don't pay anything. Normally to have an open access to our article, we have to pay lots. And for us, it's unjust for an Indonesian to pay 30 million rupiahs and something to a publisher in Europe, and I don't think it's just. So I always publish freely. I don't want to pay, but this time I think the publisher make it open access for free. I think for all articles concerning the pandemic in the Sake publication. So thank you. Yes.
Yes, that's lucky us for have your your paper
Yes,
for
lucky.
free. We are so lucky for it. Okay. Before I close this discussion, I will announce the next Wednesday forum. It will be the topics of religion and ecology, the 54 years after the White Thesis, with the speaker, Professor Gerrit Singgi, also from Universitas Kristen Duta Wacana.
Yeah, he just published a new book, Introduction to Ecology, Ecotheology, Theology
Yeah.
of Ecology.
Yes, the religion and ecology. So we already arrived in the end of this forum. I want to thank to Pak Yahya for your presentation for us today. I want to thank all the participants for the response and the question, and hope we will meet again very soon on the next Wednesday forum or other occasion. See you next time. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon, everyone.